Have you ever thought about the cost of non-discipleship? The cost of not putting the effort in to being a disciple of Christ. Dallas Willard, Dr. Willard, is a philosopher with a deep Christian grounding and faith down to his core. And he is known for pushing the envelope and asking the tough questions in an effort to build the faith of those around him, of those that he comes in contact with. And so, one of the questions that he asks is discipleship for super Christians only? Did you know that discipleship or disciple is mentioned 269 times in the Bible? You want to take a guess at how many times the word Christian is found in the Bible? Three. Disciple is mentioned 269 times, but Christian is mentioned three. Now, just based on that, we can understand the importance of being a disciple. We are a nation of churches that really allows people to come in and become members without testing their discipleship or their spiritual growth. Now, all pastors want their congregations to grow spiritually. They want their congregations to be disciples of Jesus Christ and set discipleship programs in motion for that purpose. But many people don't take advantage of that. Now, I happen to think that we have a very robust discipleship program. Pastor Pastors all over the world are trying to come up with better programs, and our church is no different. We always want to do better, to be better in challenging people to be willing to grow and to be better disciples. Here's the thing though, could you imagine if we only allowed those that were discipled according to what the pastor determined to sit in the sanctuary? Could you imagine how many people would be there? Would you be there? Have I offended you yet? My goal is not to offend you. My goal is to get us to all think about the importance of being a disciple. I was leading a small group not that long ago, and one of the people has taught a time management class. And he said that there are four quadrants, and he broke those quadrants down. And the top quadrant was one that was called importance and urgent. So, important and urgent. And what is found in time management is those things that you find important and urgent will be at the top of your daily to do list. The question becomes, if we all know that being a disciple of Christ is important, and I think we all know that, if we believe that it's important, the question is it also urgent? I think a lot of us walk through our Christian lives believing that it's important, but it's not urgent. We will get to our spiritual growth as we can get to it. And it seems that a lot of the urgent and important things overtake that, what I think is more urgent and important, which is your spiritual growth, my spiritual growth, everyone's spiritual growth. So I'm going to read three parts of spirit, the spirit of disciplines from Dallas Willard. One says, and it's in this little paragraph is called Great Omissions from the Great Commission. A different model was instituted in the Great Commission that Jesus left the church. The first goal he set forth for the early church was to use his all encompassing power and authority to make disciples. Having made disciples, these alone were to be baptized into the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit. And with this twofold preparation, they were to be taught to treasure and keep all things whatsoever I have commanded you. I don't think, take our discipleship as seriously as we should, and making other disciples as seriously as what Christ is telling us to do in the Great Commission that comes from Matthew. And then from a little further on, where Dr. Willard talks about discipleship now. Well, first he says discipleship then. When Jesus walked among humankind, there was a certain simplicity to being a disciple. Now, I find this very interesting. And what he says is primarily all disciples were meant to go with and follow Jesus. And it was an attitude of studying and obedience and being with him in his presence. There was no correspondence course. It was being with Christ all the time. And Simon Peter exclaimed from Mark 10, he says, "Look, we've left everything and followed you." That was the expectation back then. And people followed Christ, which meant they left their jobs and their families for long, long periods of time. They put being a disciple of Christ first above all things. I can't imagine dropping everything today. In fact, if you want to go on a mission trip, you have to get permission from your employer. You have to work it out with your family. You have to earn the money to go. It takes a lot. And you may or may not have a job when you come back, depending on how long you're gone, right? And then discipleship now, Dr. Willard says, though costly, discipleship once had a very clear, straightforward meaning. The mechanics are not the same today. We cannot literally be with him in the same way as his first disciples could, but the priorities and intentions, the heart or inner attitudes of disciples are forever the same. We cannot walk with Christ as the original disciples did, but our hearts can be the same. I think that's what we take away from this, and that's what we make urgent and important. He goes on to say, in the heart of the disciple, there is a desire and there is a decision or a settled intent. The disciple of Christ desires above all else to be like him. Wow. I think we all have a little bit of work to do, maybe a lot of work to do. So, what is the cost of being a non disciple? Well, again, Dr. Willard helps us out. Non discipleship costs abiding peace, a life penetrated throughout by love, faith that sees everything in the light of God's overriding governance for good, hopefulness that stands firm in the most discouraging of circumstances, power to do what is right and withstand the forces of evil. We want that. We want to be able, we want all of that. But when we are not making our spiritual growth urgent and important, we give up all that Dr. Willard is talking about. And in short, he says the cost of non-discipleship is exactly that abundance of life that Jesus said he came to bring from John 10, verse 10. So here's my challenge for all of us this week. Jesus instructed his followers to obey everything that I have commanded, right? That comes from Matthew 28. Read Matthew 28, verses 16 through 20. And that is the Great Commission. And then go through the Gospel of Matthew and try to choose and list all of the things that Jesus commanded people to do, commanded you to do. And your list will make up the basics of our Christian life and what we are shooting for. So, what is the cost of non-discipleship for you? And are you going to make your spiritual growth one in the category of time management where it is just important, or important and urgent? Have a blessed week. Bye-bye.